I've just newly found myself, Julie, and I'm at the meridian of my life. So that's kind of my upbringing, and I lived and devoted my life to um, that upbringing's religion, the church, and raised my family in it until I had a breaking moment that I couldn't do it anymore because a past life came through to me, and I knew it was mine. I attribute my tenacity, my courage, my resilience, and ability to get back up to that. There was a lot of love, and frame where I've come from in a positive way. And I choose the positive because it's made me this wonderful being that I am interacting with you right now.
Yeah, and you studied art.
I did. I have a bachelor's degree in fine art from the University of Montana in Missoula. In that commission, there were two women in the painting, but as I kept painting the painting, a third woman started showing up in between them. And then one day, I kept hearing, tell him I'm here. Tell him I'm here now.
Welcome to the Light the Day podcast, where we explore spiritually transformative experiences. I'm your host, Julie Clough, and I'm just so excited to be here with you today. And I'm really thrilled to introduce you to my guest, Krystal Brown. Hi, Krystal.
I'm truly thrilled to be your guest.
Yes. Krystal is a good friend from way back when we both lived in a neighborhood north of Houston. And this is really fun to reconnect. So tell us a little bit about Krystal.
Okay, this is the quick recap. I am a superhero for being here today and to choose joy and to follow my heart and to go through the path that others maybe can't or aren't willing to, and to do what I do. This is part of what I do. Part of what I love is plein air painting. Creating anything outdoors is a blessing and a gift, and it's how I connect with a world that I don't feel like I've ever really fit in for multiple reasons that probably will come out. But that was what I was doing up until this past Saturday in Florida. And I get to travel, paint beautiful places, and find a way to live a life that I choose and that I came in to live. And I do that with my art, with my spiritual practices, and with coming forward and speaking about it.
Beautiful. Now, if you're listening, I know most of our listeners watch the videos, but if you're listening, you need to come watch the video on YouTube because Krystal just showed another one of her just amazing paintings. You are just a fabulous artist. I actually own a couple of your paintings. I don't know if you remember that, but I bought a couple of paintings from you 10 years ago or something like that. Like, it was
I
10,
have
12
Lauren
years ago.
Christensen.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Oh, yeah, and there's that whole story behind that, so amazing. Well, Krystal, take us back because like all of us, you have gone through quite the spiritual journey. Tell us a little bit about, like, what was like as a child? Did you have like a religious background, a spiritual background? What did things start out? How did things start out?
I chose to come into a devout religious family after 5 boys and a girl at the top. Um, Huge devoted family, lots of love, lots of extended family in a predominantly LDS community. My great grandfathers were sent by the prophet up into that part of the country. There's books written about it. They were instrumental in getting the water rights from Buffalo Bill Cody. So on 6 generations, both sides of my family, It's good Pioneer stock.
Oh,
And
which part of the country is this that you
northern Wyoming, right,
Wyoming, okay.
right on the Wyoming-Montana border, beautiful country. But it irrigated only after, the saints came up there to see if it was habitable. So, I grew up in that. I loved my childhood growing up. I was resilient, I was strong. I grew up an adored, passed around, neglected feral child. Left my own devices. I rode a bike with my neighbor girlfriend who was 12 when I was 9 to Horseshoe Bend. It was 90 not it was 20 miles away. We rode our
Wow.
bikes. I don't remember how long it took us. We spent the day there swimming, and then as it was getting close to dark, I thought, "I don't wanna ride my bike home." So I called my brother, called the house, dialed the old phone number, we only had to dial 4 numbers there.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and my brother picked up because it was summer and he was home from university, I imagine, and I said, "Can you come and get us?" And he goes, "Yeah, where are you?" And I said, "Do you have the truck? Can you come and get us?" And he said, "Yeah, where are you?" And I told him, and he goes, "How'd you get there? Does mom know?" And then he ended up and came and got us, but I could disappear for a whole day and not be missed. It's such a different world, now for children.
For
So it was
sure.
an idyllic and also very traumatic childhood in funky ways because I never really fit in, and I was a girl after these 5 boys. There are pictures of me from school where I'm wearing my next oldest brother to me, I'm wearing his clothes. And it wasn't because my mom didn't buy me clothes or provide me with anything else. I just thought I needed to be like him or something. I don't know. It was just I've just newly found myself, Julie, and I'm at the meridian of my life. So that's kind of my upbringing, and I lived and devoted my life to um, that upbringing's religion, the church, and raised my family in it until I had a breaking moment that I couldn't do it anymore because a past life came through to me, and I knew it was mine. And
Mm,
and I knew that what I had been taught by the church couldn't be true if
yeah.
this was true. And I had lived it, I had seen it, it kept coming, and it kept coming in greater, detail.
Well, I definitely wanna get into that, but I'm reminded as you're talking about growing up with all these boys of a story that you told me many years ago about working on a construction crew, like a road crew or something.
Right?
I was like, "Who does that?" But, the youngest girl of 7 kids with 5 older brother does that, I would say.
I I attribute my tenacity, my courage, my resilience, and ability to get back up to that. There was a lot of love, my father's just a loving man and is part of my, he's an integral part of my life now
Mhm.
as, he's showing me things that I was never allowed to know then, and it's just a
Sure.
beautiful, kind of wrapping a bow around the hard things
Yeah,
and and providing the ability to love it
yeah,
and frame where I've come from in a positive way. Because I can choose all the positive bits from it and tell that story, or I can choose all the shitty bits and lean
yeah,
into that narrative, and I choose the positive because it's made me this wonderful being that I am interacting with you right now.
yeah, yeah, and you studied art?
I did. I
Yeah.
have a bachelor's degree in fine art from the University of Montana in Missoula. It was a way to, contribute in my family that was different, very musical family. My father and mother there were 2 grand pianos, in the living room back to back. My mother taught music. She had her master's in music. And my father sang in barbershop quartets. Music was very integral in our family, as were athletics. My father was a leatherhead quarterback for the University of Wyoming. And so there was a lot. And then to come out with a painting that my mom loved and gave me money for was like, oh, I hit on something that is just me and it's not anybody else. And so that kind of has always been my go-to and my sanctuary as when something went down in the house or I got my older brother thumped the next older brother and he thumped that one and then the bottom brother walks by me and thumps me just because it was in the line of thumping, you know, that's when you disappear and you go and you make something and you feel good again and you're doing something that lights you up and that you know everything's right with the world. So that's what painting and creativity has always been to me. And then to parlay that into traveling, being hosted, and sharing, wow, that's even better. That's the perfect thing.
Yeah. Well, hearing more of your background, helps me realize why you're so incredibly talented, because you not only inherited these beautiful art skills, but you inherited these beautiful musical skills and, um, and even the athletic skills, all of that, like, you are just so incredibly beautiful and talented, and the what you have done with your art just always blows me away. And I actually I maybe I've told you this before, but it might have been so long ago, but when I started experimenting with art and I was doing I was crafting because you came over to my house and we did some crafting together, but, when I started experimenting with, um, what am I trying to say? Um,
I
Mixed
remember what
media.
you showed
Yeah,
me. I
yeah.
remember what you showed me and how beautiful and emotive it was. And there's so much power in that, and I recognized that in that first and I got your lawn chairs. You had lawn chairs the same day. There was something to do
Oh,
with it.
that's
You
right.
showed me that, and I remember that, and I loved that I felt that do for you what it was doing for me.
Yeah,
That was that was powerful, and even what is behind you now, we all can relax into our marks, into our creativity, whether no matter the form it takes, because it takes different forms at different times, right?
right.
But if
Well,
that
and
brought something forward in you, I believe.
and I think it's so interesting because I just looked up to you so much because you had such amazing artistic skills, and for you to say, "Oh, keep going, do it," that was so encouraging to me, so I wanna thank you. I wanna thank you
Good.
for
I hope to
encouraging me.
always be encouraging people to make marks. And I remember looking at my own work and being grateful that you appreciated it, but I felt like I was just a copyist then. I was trained in sight size and in the techniques of Grisai and the old masters, so I can portray what I'm looking at. I can accurately represent something, right? But I felt at that time, and this is in hindsight, me recognizing it, what your novice creations were doing had the emotion and the power of what my polished training was yet to see come into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not to say that I didn't do great art and that it wasn't valuable and collectible and worth whatever you paid for it. So I'm
It
just
was beautiful and wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. Well, and I also have to tell this story of one of the paintings that I bought from you because one of your models was a friend of my daughter. My daughter, Carrie, had passed away at 10, and her friend, Lauren, was one of your models, but she was older at that point, and you had painted this beautiful painting of her, and she was looking up. I still have it. She's looking up in this painting, and it's almost like she's having this vision, and it reminded me so much of her mom had told me a couple years after Carrie had died that Lauren had had a dream about Carrie in which Carrie and David came back to her and visited her and told her they had, work to do and some other things, but that painting meant so much to me. I'm like, That's the one. That's the one I want right there. I want that picture of Lauren." And I don't remember what you called it, but I renamed it Lauren's Dream.
I love that, and that's what it should do. And when you shared something of that, not that specific, but you shared something of that with me around that painting. And I remember that. I remember every time she posed. That's the side note, that's the cool thing about art. When I was in the last throes of my attendance in church, I would sit on the front row and draw the speakers, and
Mm,
as I did that, I felt such love for them, and I remember everything that they spoke of, right?
oh,
And so when you speak of that painting of Lauren, I remember not only that painting and her gaze. She's wearing a plaid shirt and her hair's in braids by that time. She had posed in a purple dress and in a yellow dress, and we had done 20-minute poses with her in one 3-hour session. And it was just really fun to see something like that speak to you and connect all the dots. I didn't know then that I paint with dead people.
Oh, okay. So now we need to move forward, and and share a little bit about your evolution from kind of maybe this religious spirituality into this more connected spirituality, because you've dropped some hints about painting with dead people, about your communication with your father, and so forth. So just take us wherever you want to take us.
Okay. I am newly out of the metaphysical closet. And I say that it's literally been in the last 6 months that I have come out of the metaphysical closet and spoken to interacting with spirit. And I was raised believing that that was evil, that that was bad, and don't do it. And then, fighting it my whole life, coming forward to this time, I was given a commission, a posthumous commission of a young man, and had a horrible time capturing his likeness. And then I just started playing with I put it in a mirror, and then finally I just said, "Okay, help me. Help me with this." And from that moment forward, um, it was like an invitation to spirit to come through. And he came through in spades on that painting. By the time it was finished, I knew far too much about this gentleman that I could not share with his lovely parents. So it was fascinating how it came on so gradually, like I wouldn't even know it was happening. And then I did a painting for a commission piece for a friend that I grew up with in this community. We grew up together. We went through grammar school together. And I did this painting for him. And as I was working on that painting for him, not only were my ancestors coming through, his were coming through.
Mhm.
I couldn't separate them or get individual voices at that time, but I knew they were there. And I know when they come in, and it's almost like, "Oh, here they come," when they come in force, and then other times it's more subtle. It's just one here and one there. And then I was doing another commission for a gentleman for his sister of her grandmother who had just passed. And I had a picture, and I doodle at night when I relax, and I do these pen and ink drawings, and they're all others coming through, and that's a new knowing for me in the last 6 months as I've honored this and come out publicly as someone who does this. In that commission, there were 2 women in the painting, but as I kept painting the painting, a 3rd woman started showing up in between them, and then
Mm.
one day, I kept hearing, "Tell him I'm here. Tell him I'm here now. Tell him I'm here now." And so I reached out to the client and said, "Your mom's here now. Who's your mom?" And then I learned that she had passed, and ended up incorporating her in the painting as well. And
Wow.
it just keeps going. I've always I didn't know it, but there's a spirit in the land. There's a spirit in every environment that we go out into. And to create with that spirit, that's in this banyan tree painting that I held up at the beginning. I was creating with the spirit of these trees and this passage. And I've also created with the spirit of desolate, forlorn places that have known carnage and death. It's it's fascinating to see in hindsight the evolution of this gift and whatever it is, because it doesn't feel like a normal Claire. It feels like a combination of, I don't know, because I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
developing and becoming as I honor it and, what I'm asked to do. Sometimes I'm now a Reiki practitioner. I'm on my 125th day of personal practice minus 1.
wow.
125 days minus 1, I sit and put my hands in the positions on my body because it's blessing me with clarity and vitality and a capacity to do these things that I'm doing now. I'm also practicing a modality that I learned as Vibrant Life, and it's as I was taught, it takes on its own name and becomes what it is in each practitioner's hands. And in doing that, I've been able to clear away a lot of layers and a lot of implants and imprints and programming that didn't support who I am. And
Mhm.
that has liberated and freed me to follow my divine design, which the infinite being that I am came into this world through my family of origin to be. And to come to that at my age as an ageless goddess in the meridian of her life is thrilling and also like, "Oh, please let me do this for my daughters so that they have all of this moving forward and they don't have to go through what I have to embrace who they are authentically because of their programming." Because I was one of the programmers. Unknowingly, I was one of the programmers,
Yeah.
right?
And that's just the way the cycle goes.
Yeah.
We're
But
all
take it when we bring it into our awareness and call it out and say, "No, I see you now. I forget."
yeah. Well, and you've alluded to this, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are. There's so many questions I wanna ask, but I'm curious about your thoughts of about the soul plan, like life plan before we come here. What are your what are
Well, I'm all about this. One of the things that has come to me, and I consider my divine design, the divine design is something our infinite beingness, the extension of creation and energy that's vibration and light that comes into physical form in earth. This is the only place we can do it. This is why we do it over and over and over again. That's why we have so much past life recall. It's why we have near death experiences. We are part of a collective of energy that loves the earth playground, right? And we know this and we come with the divine design. And I sense that little girl that I came through my mother's womb and with her DNA and my father's. I chose that. That was part of my divine design because that would prepare me to stand forth at this time in my power, free of the programming, but stronger from it to do the things that I have come into this world to do. And that is to be a light, to be an inspiration, and to do it with the marks I make. Every painting, I'm showing it again for those who aren't listening. It's really fabulous. And every mark made is imbued with the energy of the environment, my energy, and there's going to come a time and a place where they can measure that energy. And these are going to be off the charts with love and light. And that's part of my calling. And to say something so um, delusions of grandeur, who do you think you are? That is not possible. That's not how it's done. You don't have this. That voice no longer has sway because I choose as an evolved thinking person in this beautiful body of DNA that I walk in and talk in. I coalesce with that infinite being that has the divine design. And I recognize that I am in it as a coalesced being in the synchronicities, in the flow, in the things that are working, right? Doesn't mean that things don't stop working or that things don't fall apart in a horrible way, that I got to put some plans into place to extract any interlopers, right? It all works when we look for the filter and can phrase it in gratitude from a point of love. I attract by love is going to feel so much different than I attract, ugh, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's about choosing who I want to be and having everything fall apart to such an extent that there's only you can only build from this foundation. I'm not gonna build on an ant pile. I've cleared the rubble of all my tower moments, which in the tarot are just endings where things fall apart, where things are broken down. All of those tower moments have left a field of rubble that I have now cleared, and I get to choose what to build. And I will build something that will bring this world greater light, greater understanding and compassion, and greater clarity for each individual to access their own divine design. It's not about anybody else's. And that's another falsehood that I grew up believing that if I did this for others, then after all I could do, something good would happen. And it was just backwards, just completely backwards. We have to do that for ourselves first and foremost because we're the only person in every moment of our experience. And when we take care of ourselves, when we fill ourselves with that love and that nurturing, with all of the the beauty that we would give to our grandchildren, that we would pour on our children, pour over something that we love. When we give that to ourselves, that's when we give our authenticity and our cognition, our reptilian brains. Freud erroneously calls it egoic brain. That's just the evolved programming speaking. We have to love that and allow it and curate an experience where it can choose to coalesce with the infinite being and the divine design, because that's when flow starts. That's when it gets exciting and good. And that's where I am. And that's what I'm building in. So you can hide and watch. This could be another stream of tower moments. I sure hope not. But it feels like it's the foundation of the buttresses that are going to launch me into the stratosphere where I can communicate with spirit and be the open conduit that brings it into this life, whether it's by this
Yeah.
or by just encouraging someone and saying, "You keep doing that. You keep making those marks. Those are important." It's
Yeah.
just about getting to our authenticity. And we get through that when we can move around and through the programming.
What you just said there is magic because what you communicated, I don't know if you did this intentionally, but what you communicated was very much the blueprint for the new earth.
Ooh, thank you. I do see in blueprint. That is the color of my mind's eye. It's a beautiful royal blue. And I am working right now. This is topic for another conversation, perhaps. Anchor points, soul points, and attraction points. The anchor
Mhm.
points are in our body, in this earth vessel. The attraction points are in our astral body, which is the spirits that inhabit and that are here on this earth with us. The church gets so much of it right, Julie. In what I envision and what comes in vision to me in this blueprint, constellation-esque way of seeing. Um, it's so fun, and I've yet to be able to do it with making marks, and for a mark maker, that is so mind-boggling. And then we also have, the other there's the star seed in my lineage that is above that astral. So and that's as far as I've gone into, the ether,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And to speak openly with someone and to have them nodding their heads is like, "Are you kidding me? What's taking so long?" Right? But I don't care anymore because it's here and I am seeing it. And I saw today when I was speaking with a friend who's working in these areas with me that I saw my anchor points. I felt how I can tune into them. And I saw them aligning with my attraction points and how that is going to change my full expression as a sentient, feeling human being in this Gaia experience right now.
Yeah. A minute ago, you spoke to this idea of, like, I don't know what Claire this is, but I get this sense that with all of your creative ability and all of that, like, right brain, feminine energy that you embody so beautifully.
That was so suppressed and cloaked and veiled and blanketed and restrained and think of a sausage just trying to burst out of its casing.
Yeah.
What it felt like.
Well, and to me, what it feels like is your spiritual connection is beyond the words of Claire's.
Mm.
So when you're experiencing this, that's like saying to someone when they're, I don't know, they're looking at fireworks, for example, what senses are you using? And then they're having to go, "Well, I can see it, and I can hear it, and I can smell the grass, and I can," and they're like, so for you, it's like you are experiencing this at every level
Mm.
of spiritual senses. So to take it apart and say, "Well, now I'm seeing this, and now I'm hearing this, and now I'm," is almost like I it's almost like going backwards a little bit.
Counterproductive.
Yeah,
Instead of just embracing what it is for me, which
just
I
leaning into it.
do, I'm going to do that because I'm also one who this has come so rapidly and quickly in the last 10 years. 10 years of tower moments, 10 years of
Yeah.
getting up and 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 getting up again. Um, thank you for saying that. It's almost literally the term hollow bone, a shamanic term. Um, when you are the bone, it just flows through. And that's what it feels like to me. And thank you for encouraging me to move and lean into it, like you said,
Mhm.
because it doesn't have to look like Claire's have looked in the past, and I would be curious, and I imagine that there's someone that this will come to who will hear these words who are experiencing something very similar, if not
Yes.
very the same. The Vibrant Life Modality that I mentioned that I practice as well is coming to different people all over the world at the same time. It's doing the same thing, and it has different names because they're different people doing it, but it's the universe is raining this down on those who are open to listen, who can be the hollow bone, who are willing to come out of the metaphysical closet and lose everything they've ever known.
Yeah.
I don't think that has to be for everybody. For me, I think I wanted that, or it wouldn't be my experience, or it wouldn't have been what had been part of my experience, you see? Um, it's happening now, and it's happening on a grand scale, and I'm encouraged to see how each of us who play our role as the hollow bone that we are in our authenticity, living our divine design, how that, um, expands and extends the capacity for Homo sanctus, Homo luminous, for us to become more than the base being of Earth life, to become that coalesced force where the cognition doesn't override the divine and the infinite being, it partners with it and
Mm.
makes thereof a whole nother experience.
Beautiful, beautiful. I 100%, and actually when you were talking about that kind of that blueprint and the anchor points and you have this beautiful ability to interpret in art form, and you're saying, I can't quite draw it yet." It's like it's like when somebody has a near-death experience and they're trying to put into words,
Mm,
they're trying to bring this experience that's beyond words
mhm,
into linear form, and
mhm.
so the experience that you're having with that blueprint is beyond form, it's beyond the linear experience, because if anybody could draw it, it would be you.
Well, I've tried.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's beyond our language.
Mhm.
Out it's outside of the lexicon, and I we mentioned when we spoke briefly before you hit record, um, I speak in the language of scripture a lot because I loved it. I
Yeah.
I had a love for it, and the confounding of the languages at the Tower of Babel had nothing to do with man building to reach God. It was taking the language of God from man. We think of it as Spanish, English, all these different languages. No, it was we were removed from the language of God because of our ignorance and our greed.
Mhm.
I kind of like to revisit that scriptural context and knowing because I have my own knowing of Jesus now that is
Mhm.
more powerful than any that I was ever given in that church that bore his name,
Yeah.
right? It's just interesting to honor myself and what comes through me and be okay with that.
Yeah. Are you okay speaking to or sharing any part of this past life experience that was coming to
Yes. Yes, thank you for asking. It's what cracked me open. We have things that we go through in life that crack us open. They're called they're refining moments, they're turning points, like 9/11 is a collective crack open when those towers fell. For I remember where I was, most people do. That was a moment where we turned, and things were never perceived as they were before, right? And that was that moment for me. I was staying home from a family trip with my dog because I had given her a T-bone and it had gotten into her digestive system in a bad way, and she was gonna void it out eventually. I couldn't go on a trip and leave my dog, right?
Mhm.
So I'm sitting there in my big, beautiful home with my eyes open, and I had just come in from something, and right on me, I'm looking out this window, and the glass is thick at the bottom, and there's little balls in the glass, little, bubbles in the glass, and I feel the tightness of my dress, I feel the dirt under my feet, I feel the temperature in the room, I feel the sweat down my back, I feel the hairs on my neck rise all the way up to my crown as I see this plume of smoke, not smoke, of dust coming towards me, accompanied with dread and knowing.
Mm.
I just knew it was awful. I moved to the door and I'm seeing this full sensory perception all around me. And I watch as a wagon pulls up with two men in it. And this one gentleman goes around the back. The tail falls down. And by the ankles, a man is pulled out and his head hits the ground first. And his body is dropped. And I knew he was mine and I was his. And that he was in that state because of me. And then that was it. That was the first.
Wow.
And then that led me to, and this had come after a time where I had sat beside our big, beautiful pool behind that house and thought of, I want to float face down. Oh, I don't want my kids to find me. I'll go on my neighbor's pool. Oh, I don't want my neighbors to find me. And then I thought, what is going on? What is so wrong that you're thinking of doing something like that?
Mhm.
So there had been a lot of spiritual questioning and dialoguing and seeking for help because every avenue that people would normally take, like go to a therapist, go to a counselor, they were just falling flat. I couldn't get anywhere but one step at a time. And it's been part of this journey that's brought me to this to
Mm.
this. And with that, so much has been delivered around that life. And there's been other lives that have eclipsed it in scope and detail, which is interesting. But that was the most powerful because it was the most current that I'm aware of. And I'm not speaking of parallel lives or dimensions or timelines. I'm just speaking of Earth um,
Right.
lives. And
Yeah.
at one point, I was questioning, is this epigenetics? Is this the memory of the DNA that I've received through my parents? And I did a shamanic training, and that was her impression that I'm just drawing this from the Akashic record. But as time goes on and I grow, it is mine, as
Mm.
were the others. And I circle with people from those lives until all of those ripples and tides and waves are ridden to their full extent and the lessons are learned and given so that we can grow together because it's all we choose who we come with too. We This is no coincidence. This
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I'm also curious, I'm endlessly curious about all of this.
lots of
I
good questions.
I'm wondering, have you kind of figured out what the purpose or what the, well, I guess I'll just say what the purpose was of you having that experience of a past life and other past lives? It feels like and I wanna preface this by saying that it feels like this life is enough. Like, dealing with past lives feels like just so much more.
Right? Right? Yes, there is great purpose in this, as this is the life of my joy. This is the life where all karmic debts have been paid because one of the first lives that set the trajectory for many lives was one where I broke sacred vows and covenants that I had made, and I broke them with myself.
Mm,
And I used the great power I had in that life for personal gain. and I
Mhm.
others get their personal gain at great cost to others. And through that, and it's not karmic reparations or, you gotta be flogged for that. It's riding wave after wave of the ripple that my actions on that day took. Um, some beautiful, there's something great in every one of those lives, right? And that life that cracked me open and brought me to my existential crisis where I came to a knowing of my creator, which isn't just God the Father. It's way vaster. It's way more vast than that because of the female aspect, which is I refer to as divine beloved. And when I started accessing the female of my deity, of my creator, of my creation, then I started allowing the female aspects of me to flourish and grow. And that has been part of all of this. And to recognize that that most recent life was part of the karma that I was living through in this current life. And to have that life, and I was under restrictions. I remember when I came home from a 3-day fast and a trip and was guided, I knew I had to say, "I need to let you go," to my then husband, and that was all I could say. And then I had to watch it unfold. I also knew that I had to be completely honest, that if a question was asked, I had to answer with integrity, and from that moment forward, I have been in integrity and in honest no matter what the fallout is around it, and it
Mhm.
makes life so simple and beautiful and opened me up into a better hollow bone and channel for this to come through. Because as Brigham Young said, the religion that doesn't require the sacrifice of its members isn't a religion that can do anything. And there's truth in that. It may have come from a faulted vessel, but there's truth. There's truth. Great truth can come through faulted individuals. And I like to gather that. I like to bring in what is true for me, which is going to be different than we all come in with different divine designs and different ways of showing up and doing things, different expressions. It's when we get out of the way and we can align with our divinity, for some reason, it's over here on the left for me. I just keep noticing I do that. Um, we tap into something that allows us the greater freedom and the serendipity and the synergy and synchronicities that this life is bringing. I don't believe that I am the only one that this is the life of my joy. I say that because this is the life where karma's debt and for the reparations and the restitution and all the waves of turbulence before is felt, and now I get to ride it. It
Yeah.
it feels so different and it feels true. One of the things that I've learned to do, and it came from our religion of origin, is to seek truth. What is true? We used to call it feeling the spirit, right? I've honed in on my true, and I can't tell you what your true is. I can only tell you what mine is. My true is when the sky of my heart elevates. Some things are so true that it elevates so far that it feels like my milk lets down and it's babies, right? That's how true some things are. And the converse of that, the the contrast is a compression. It's a feeling of heaviness. And as I've cultivated this art of listening to my body, I've got a slew of books because it's always been books, other individuals, great thinkers. Somebody shared this with me that has been a step in the right direction
Yeah.
to bring me to my full expression. And I can it's almost like the stages of Kevin Bacon. Remember when that was going around that, I can trace it all back to boop, 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 boop.
Right.
It's like the priesthood in the religion of our origin could be traced back to Joseph Smith and then Jesus Christ, right? And or Enoch, whoever conferred the priesthood upon him because I'm blanking on that right now. Um, Reiki can be traced back. It's so many things are uh, the great and essential truths are bastardized and hidden between the programming and cloaks of nefarious ill doers. And if
Yeah.
we can just let the truth be our focus, then we can it's almost like the webs of inaccuracy and subterfuge just kind of fall off like walking through a spider web.
Mm. Yeah, interesting way of thinking about it. Because I think I've seen a lot of people in my life who have left religion and then become disconnected from their spirituality. And yet I love what you're saying because we can see the beauty in the practice of religion, and we can take the beauty of what we experienced there and bring it forward into this connection with God that's more real than it ever was, where we're not there's not somebody in between deciphering it or
Mm-mm.
defining our spiritual experiences.
We're the litmus test for truth.
Yeah.
Our bodies and coming to understand our body's function has been such a I love it. I love learning what my body's communicating because when I get a compression here and something over here, I've used a wrong word. I've communicated something that doesn't jive with what was true and wanting communication, right? There's you can tell, it's our sixth sense, it's our spidey sense, if you will. We
Mhm.
but we've been taught to not believe it because of our programming, and our programming has tried to numb us of it. What is put in our water, what is put there are things that have been given to us that precipitate the lack of our pineal gland being open and functioning.
Yeah.
Seeking that and to open that, to eliminate the things that my body doesn't benefit by having because it limits that, has been one of the things that I do. I test it for others. I encourage others to be aware what's limiting your truth detector, what's limiting your authenticity, and let's get rid of it because it's something to do with prescription medicine. It's the first thing that's the first thing that's gonna dull and dampen any and everything
Mhm.
because it's created by man to do something that man wants done to keep people in a paradigm of control and fear. When our bodies come with the perfect blueprint for healing and thriving, we have to
S
get our cognition to let our body do what it is here to do.
So interesting you say that because I can remember where I was when I was driving down the highway and I had this thought, "We're giving away our power," and it was directed towards the medical system. Now, I am not saying don't go see your doctor, don't
Say
misunderstand or
that doesn't work.
misinterpret. Yeah, that's not what this is about, but it's like trusting ourselves when we go to see someone that we put in an authority place, that we trust ourselves enough to hear what they're saying and then judge whether or not what they're saying is correct for us.
Mhm.
And
Be
so
your own
often.
advocate.
What's that?
You have to be your own advocate, and
Mhm.
we give that power away to the first opinion, the second opinion, and the diagnosis.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things for people to let go of is a diagnosis that came from somebody else who may not have had a full working tool set. There are inspired healers in the medical fields, in so many different fields. My father was an inspired healer. He was a dentist. He did a lot of good.
Mhm.
My siblings are in the medical arts.
Mhm.
You can do a lot of good, and then you can perpetrate a lot of power over. misuse of it. And my awareness of that has only come forth in the last 3 years when it wasn't available to me to seek out medical help when I had medical issues. I
Mm,
have known miraculous healings.
yeah. Well, and this whole idea of, like, a lot of times and I love what you're saying about listening to our body and feeling that uplift versus that kind of depress or that,
Mhm.
down.
And weight, heaviness, burden. And what's yours? I know you have one. You have
Oh,
a
yeah.
weight scale. You
Oh,
have
yeah.
a truth detector. I have a friend who gets it across the bridge of her nose and
Yeah.
then accompanied by other things. But once we find where our truth is, what is true for us, where the infinite being of us communicates.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And what you describe is very similar to what I experience as well. It's like this pulling forward, like this heart
Mhm.
pulling forward versus this just yeah, it's very similar to what you're describing.
Lean into
I
it.
know. I know.
Right? I like that. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I have a couple more questions, and one is, and I think I started to talk about this, but I think there's just a little more that I'd like to talk about this idea of, like, you're talking about this truth detector, but a lot of times people look back and they say, "But I believed this tradition, or I believed this thing, and I felt like it was true." And now I see I have more information and I see that what I thought was true isn't, and then they start to doubt those feelings, and they say that feelings aren't the way that we can detect truth. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, truth changes just like our pant size changes, just like we change. The truth that I needed to come through and grow up in was what was true for me until it wasn't.
Beautifully said.
Man that I had 3 incredible children with and 31 years of marriage with was the man to do that with until it wasn't. And as we grow and evolve and learn line upon line, precept upon precept, wound upon wound upon wound, we find different ways to recognize truth. There are imposters, there are charlatans, there are shapeshifters, there are demonic forces in play who delight in wreaking havoc and causing turmoil and destruction. We don't need to play with them.
No.
And as we go through truth after truth, they have less play for us.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense because even in
Well,
my own
we need to learn to trust ourselves and to ask good questions. Is
mhm,
this fine? Is the first question. When you come up to something, I believed with all my heart and soul in my church, right? You were there with me. We raised our kids in it. We
mhm,
showed up and devoted our lives to it.
mhm,
I devoted income to it. You know,
mhm,
I was given a budget for this, and I would pour any extra I could into that because I believed in it that much. It was
right.
true then. I was growing then. I was becoming a better version of myself in every truth that I believed in and followed. And then when those truths started not showing up as much, when I sat on the pew in the front row and drew the speaker looking for any kernel of truth, I was able to focus on the being and the love of another being and let the words fall away. Sometimes they held true and sometimes they didn't. But truth evolves too. And as we come into our coalescence as a thinking, feeling, evolving, growing being on planet Earth with an infinite source animating it, Our truth detector wants more and more truth, and we can't get it all at once or it would shut us down, right?
Right.
It would
Yeah.
shut us down if all of the truth was revealed to us. So we're given little breadcrumbs until we find the loaf. And then if we gobble up the loaf, we're kind of hurt here, right? It's all laid out so beautifully for us when we lean into it, like you
Mhm.
encourage and trust. Okay, that happened before. Am I clear? Is there any external influences around me manipulating, injecting themselves into my experience, trying to derail me? When we can see truth and get to our clarity, breathe in, feel it in the sky of our heart. Okay, this is me. Then we can know again, and our truth shifts and change. I've believed in false guides. I have listened to spirit guides that I believed were here to bless and benefit me, who were imposters, who were charlatans come to derail me. And luckily, I have a numerous team and powerful protection that reveals them to me in the most sometimes funny and sometimes not so funny ways. All the charlatans will always be revealed because they are not you and they are
Yeah.
not yours. And
Yeah.
that's one question that I'd use to check if I'm in my heart space, if I'm in see truth. Is this mine? First question. If my chest raises when I ask, is this mine? When I'm thinking that this horrible thing is going on or part of my life, or I believed in something wrong, is this mine? If my chest raises, I know it's not mine. It's something of other that's influencing me. And
Mm.
that's that's out of my realm. That's on the other side of the street. That's somebody else's monkey and circus. And learning tools to just clear that and to release that helps me be in this truth. And that's the greatest way to recognize truth and to trust the body. I'm not saying trust, oh, I feel like this and this and this now. That's other coming in and getting you derailed when you need to just go back to your truth because in every moment, bar maybe 2 or 3, we are safe.
Yeah. Yep.
Time. We are
Yeah.
and if we can get to access that safety point, then our body is communicating truth. Following the cues of the body, going through the grocery store, letting your body pick is thrilling.
Yeah, when we're filled with anger or fear or anxiety, that is cutting off that source of truth.
It
Yeah.
cuts off our coalescence with our infinite being. It cuts off the connection, the whole reason for being,
Yep. Oh,
right? It cuts it off.
yeah. I before we go, because this has been a fascinating conversation, I would love for you to share a little more about your relationship with your father now, who you mentioned earlier, and I know he's on the other side, so tell us a little bit about what that has been like for you to make that connection with him.
Well, it's interesting to recognize, and so many of my ancestors on my maternal and my paternal line have come in such wonderful, fun ways. It's just been a delight. My father is a constant, very close, and I believe it's his ascended masterness in his soul's evolution that gives him the ability to swoop in and guide me as frequently as he does. Also, I have, my maternal grandmother, uh, is a big player and cultivator and part of the team that propels and informs me. My father, I tripped on a bowl of catnip and caught myself on a nearly unplayable piano on the corner of my eye last summer and flipped over. And I had been practicing Reiki. I flipped over on my bottom and put my hands in this position as good blood gushed down my throat, out all over on me and around. And at that time, in my distress and in my fear, as a single woman with no insurance and a major gash on her face, I'm thinking, my face, my face, my face. That's my cognition, right? And then my infinite being is very calm and just showing me step after step after step. And then to have my father come in with he is so subtle. He's not one that will get your attention. You know the ones that come in and they're there right from the get-go. You're swept up with them and their energy. My father's very subtle in observation, and it's almost like a, "You see? You see? You see?" He showed me how the sacrament tablecloth was folded when I was preparing to show a painting that I had worked on for a client where both of our ancestors were in, I mentioned before. I was just preparing to reveal that painting, and I recognized what was happening, and then I hear, "You see? You see?"
Mhm.
And I felt him, and I felt his love. And now he comes so effortless. I didn't recognize him before in so many ways that I had created because he didn't speak of that. He didn't speak of what he did. He was just a doer. He was the one that called everybody on their birthday and saying happy birthday, right? He didn't speak of himself and how he creates, and even though he was showing me his whole life, now I feel like he's coming through and he's showing me not only what he didn't show me in life, but he showed me what I wanted to receive in my family of origin, but was denied. And that
Mhm.
in a really fun way to bond with him.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how they come and how I'm still surprised.
Yeah. Yeah.
How I'm still surprised.
So what did that mean to you when you had that accident, you had that injury, and you felt your father's presence there, your dad's presence
I
there?
just knew it was gonna be okay, and I also, I was guided, so I would hear my voice say things to my then, roommate who was also a blessing to be there at this time, and I ended up freezing my face as long as I could, and then I cleaned it up, and then I communicated with my brother that, "'Kay, what do I do?" And then I was given the plan. I saw my scar healed. I saw that. And then 3 days after that, I had a Jesus moment in Galveston where I walked in the water and submerged myself underwater like he commanded the lepers to do. And it dawned on me at that time how painful that would be for someone with sores and lesions all over their body to go into salt water.
Yeah.
And just had I kind of came out of that experience reborn and into my power, came into a bird that was later that came to me through my maternal grandmother. She totally hijacked a bird so that I would have something to focus on and to devote my time to during that healing process where I was in my isolation even further. When I came out of a Vibrant Life clearing session, um, the bird had been cleared and released to return to its life because it had served me for 3 months during my convalescence and my growth, and just so many amazing stories that you can't make up. Literally putting in the GPS how to get back home after this clearing where Pretty Bird was cleared, and then seeing a next door message. I know whose bird that was that I had posted about 3 months earlier.
Wow.
And then the turnaround to connect with that individual, to know that it is their bird who has a mate, who's been missing him, and to have that whole circle be confirmed from the time that the bird went missing. was just outstanding. It was literally, I crack my face open, I call in everyone I can call in to help me, and then it just starts going down, and it
Wow.
hasn't stopped going down, it's just doubled down, and I only have a little 8th rest scar and was able to take care of that on my own, and just another example of a miraculous healing that has come through because that's part of what I do as well with Reiki and Vibrant Life and the new form that it is taking. It's a healing modality, but it's not your traditional healing modality. It's not the healing modality of medicine that I came through, but it's one that someone who was in it is tootling, tutoring me in, and I think that's quite lovely.
So what are some of the one of the questions I like to ask all my guests is what are some of the practices, the spiritual practices that help you stay connected?
Every morning, typically my alarm is set for 4:44, and then I wake, I relieve myself, and I wash my hands, and I do a personal Reiki session on myself. If, like, when I'm in a event or something shifts that where I have to change my time, I make sure that I take time to spend at least an hour doing that practice for myself. That is a gift to me, and I go within at that time, and it becomes meditation, grounding, and physical healing for sometimes I go 7 to 8 days with only 4 hours of sleep a night, and I know that that is only possible because of this universal life force energy that is flowing through me as a Reiki practitioner. Anyone, the priesthood holders of the church, they're using the same energy, the same life force energy. It's the power of touch and it's the power of intention flowing through, and it flows through and guides me. From that point on, I move forward into expressing gratitude and going into my heart center, and I love on my body. I look in the mirror, I hold myself, and I say, "Body, body, body," at the beginning of every day and at the end of every day. And I welcome what it can share with me, and I thank it for how it carries me so beautifully. And then I speak to the divine spirit within me and ask it to fill me and move me in the direction of my highest good this day and in the direction of the highest and greatest good I can bring to all I encounter. And it goes from there. And then when I get derailed, which is sometimes some days it seems like I get derailed frequently, right? I'm cultivating the awareness to ask, "Is this mine?"
Mhm.
Because if something knocks me down and I can't reframe it and I can't stand back up and I can't get into this good feeling space, there's something else in play. Is this mine? And then I send it off to whoever, and that's something everyone can do. It's body whispering. It's listening to our bodies and recognizing when it's not us and letting it go. Because 99% of what we internalize as ours isn't. And that is
So
very
true.
liberating. And that's how we resonate and coalesce with our infinite being as a thinking individual in a beautiful body.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's my daily practice so far.
Yeah.
I love to move my body. I love yoga. I'm a big believer in breath work. That's how we anchor in our anchor points is through the body and through our breath, which
Mm.
brings in the life that we are, right?
Life force energy. Absolutely. So how can people find you? Where can they find you?
Oh my goodness, I'm popping up everywhere. I am on social media, on my own feed, interacting with my people. I'm not out there searching for anything else. It's a way for me to show up and be found on Facebook and Instagram. And I usually post about my art. I don't post personal things about family necessarily. And then there is a new YouTube channel and other new offerings that are happening locally and on my website on
Okay.
my website. It's
So
all evolving and coming together.
So what is the website? What's the URL?
KW Brown Art. I pay for that domain name, so you should be able to Google Krystal Brown Art, fine art, Krystal W. Brown, KW Brown, and it's all on social media. KW Brown Art is my Instagram. And I love to share, I love to inspire, and I love to encourage. That's part of my gift. And it's part of why coming out as a hollow bone and a channel, if you will, painting with dead people. I didn't intend to, it just happens. I paint, and this is a better way to say it. Thank you for having me say it so much. I paint with the spirit,
Yes.
the environment. I paint with the spirit of the person. And that means their team. We all have a team of infinite beings that surround and are with us all the time. We have our guardian angels. You speak to that. I want to know more about you and what you're doing and how it's going to. Because we're coming together and vibrating in these new frequencies for beautiful reasons. And it has nothing to do with the narrative and the programming that is being disseminated that feels heavy. It's something new that we haven't seen before that we're creating fresh.
I believe that too. Thank you so much for being here today, Krystal. It's been such a joy.
I'm sorry for my clapping and whatnot, but I've been delighted to be here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.